Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. My name is Cody. Today we're going to talk about new Zen's dead. He got killed. He got murdered in his sleep. Sell all your cards. Is the deck still good? I don't know. Stuff happened. And to talk to me about it this week, we have Lucas returning, becoming a mainstay on here now that he has a new computer and he can actually be on here and talk. Probably still should probably be practicing for Pro Tour since we're like 2 weeks away. But Lucas, how has your week been going so far?
Good. Like I was starting to say before we started the podcast, I played a lot of Starvo today. So yes, I have been grinding furiously for the Pro Tour, but that's not even remotely what's important to me. I got to reveal Earth, Ice, and Lightning cards like 50 times today, so that was pretty sweet. Preparing for my LL skirmishes with some of my locals, but majority of my time has just been staying at home, glum in the basement with the lights off, furiously playing games for the Pro Tour, doing some drafts here and there. Probably should be doing some more drafts, but that's what this week's for. But it's been good. The bands were interesting. I was kind of waffling on what to do. I had a few different heroes that I was liking before the bands, and now I think that there's a hero that I really enjoy playing that I think I can play with enough confidence to take it. I don't really think there's any phenomenal choices for the Pro Tour. It's kind of just the nature of this format. I think everything is fine into each other, so there's not a whole lot you can do. Um, but I feel good. I feel good about draft. I feel good enough about CC, so I'm excited. I'm just kind of excited to like hang out with everybody and be there at the event, and obviously win the tournament because I'm the best player in the world. So I'll be doing that. But I mean, other than that, I'm excited.
And joining me, as always, is Dan, who was, before the bans, finished with his deck. His deck was done. It was created. The sideboard guide was basically done. We were putting on the finishing touches. And I've never seen Dan so upset about a ban announcement than this time around. We expected either nothing or a little bit of something. And this was like the permanent solution we thought would happen like after Pro Tour. So Dan, how's your mental currently, and how do you feel after your favorite deck has been neutered?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. My mental is so very bad, and not even just like jokingly. Like I'm actually having like slight mental health issues because of this ban. Mostly because of all the time I put in. Right, it was like everything I've been doing since the release of the set has been focused towards preparing Zen for the Pro Tour, and I was done. Like I finished the deck. I had like all these sick innovations, a lot of like never before seen strategies for matchups that were problems for the deck.
Yeah.
Um, I felt so confident. I was like, I could relax. I had like 2 weeks just to practice and like take care of things at home, enjoy the vacation with the wife in Amsterdam and Ireland. And Elsa told me to go F myself. And instead, I'm stressed out of my mind and like not sleeping. And it's great. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I think the deck that Dan had that he was gonna bring was like I think he was gonna top eight like pretty easily. I thought his deck was really good and he played it very well. But
Yeah, it really feels
instead,
like Elsa just told me like I lost the Pro Tour before I even played. Like, just go fuck yourself. Like, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that deck had edges in the mirror. I think it fixed the new matchup. I think Victor was playable, um, and now it's completely different, right? Like,
Yeah. Dude, I had so much fun too. Like, there's all these crazy ideas. Like, wait, this worked? This is amazing. I'm going to build around it. And, oh, just for nothing. Just throw it in the trash. I'll start over. That's fine.
yeah, it was.
should we make a tech like post Amsterdam for this is what we were gonna do? It's really
I'm
cool,
probably going to
guys.
tweet it out because there's some, like, some funny cards.
Yeah,
It's just tough because this is a much bigger hit than we were expecting to happen. Because like typically, if like a hero's in a really good spot or doing really well. And we'll cover some of the numbers from last week's nationals in a minute. But typically, if a deck's doing really well, but the deck's only been around for like a month, like they give it a little bit more breathing room to like play the game and like have its moment. And it didn't feel like nationals really was a full moment for Zen. I could have seen, and we talked about this, last week that they do a little hit just to tune it down a little bit because it's a little oppressive. We could see that happen before Pro Tour just to shake it up a little bit, give it a little shake. And several weeks ago, we mentioned this as a solution. Hey, Bonds is a problem card. They should probably just put it to red only, but that's in the future. That's like later. That's like not now. Gives in a little bit more time was kind of the thought process. Tune it down a little bit. Let it still be a powerful deck. And it's not saying the deck isn't powerful now. It's just it's not the same deck, right?
Yeah, I think the problem is like they might not have hit it super hard potentially. Like I could definitely still see Zen being like really good. There's a lot of innovation. There's like a lot of areas that are unexplored, but like whatever deck, like Dan's deck, for example, or like a lot of different people's deck, like whatever you were doing doesn't work. You have to play a very different deck. And that's not what we were expecting. Like most of the bans that people were talking about outside of Bonds being Harmony and Strider Reprisal being like the main two that people talked about. Neither one of those like fundamentally changed like how the deck works. The deck, whatever you were doing, would still do the same thing. But the Bonds hit literally like you can't play 9 bonds anymore. Like it's just not the same hero. Even if you are still playing bonds, it's still just like very different from what a lot of the lists were doing. Although it's also an interesting hit because some people just like weren't playing 9 bonds. Some people were playing 3 or none. So it's like a very unique hit from what we've seen before. I think they pretty much always hit a card that like every version of the deck plays. But we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I need to do a solo monologue rant at some point, but you guys hit my 2 big points, which is like they just deleted an archetype. Like they just straight removed it. Like it wasn't like power it down. It's like no, you just can't play this way. And like if you saw my list, like it was Bonds was everything. Like it was the whole list in every matchup in every game plan. It was like the bread and butter, the glue, and they just deleted my deck, which feels really bad. But the biggest thing is like the timing. Like why are you doing this now? Like it's effectively a week and a half before the event. Like if you're traveling like, what am I supposed to do? I just don't understand. If you're doing this big of a hit, like Bonds isn't new. It's not like a novel idea. Like, why did you make this announcement after like US Nats or hold it for after the PT?
Apparently,
And
it
my
was a
main
novel idea.
argument, go ahead.
Yeah. Apparently, it was a novel idea. If you read the article.
Yeah, so that's my next point. So like, but also I just don't understand. Oh my god. Like how did you not test Bonds? It's the best ninja card and it says combo and you printed a ninja hero who searches his deck for any combo card. Like what do you think we're searching for? And then they added shifting winds. What do you think we're naming our tigers if it's not gust wave? Like I just don't understand what they tested. Just put 9 bonds in the deck. You put 9 chi. You put the best blues, which is what ancestral levels. Um, what's the other one?
Bonds.
Shifting. Then you add 9 bonds. You're at like 30 cards. You add the best combo card. The deck's done. Like, how did you not test this?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I remember Brian Gottlieb said on the cast for U.S. Nationals, he was saying it was in one of our early rounds. It was a Runaways feature, and he was like, a lot of people haven't adopted shifting winds of the Mystic Beast yet, but it was like really crucial to our internal lists and
That
like
was
how
my
they
favorite part of the
function.
deck.
And when I heard that, I was like, okay, so they also knew that Bonds was like the best thing you could possibly be doing, right? Because what else could you possibly do with shifting
Like,
winds?
we're just naming 100 wins and playing like 5 tigers. Like, what are you talking about? It's the best ninja card. You printed a ninja that can search his deck. And then in the article, they're like, we don't like that he searches his deck so often. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is your
I don't like
design.
that this Rai makes so many rune chants. Like, come
Yeah,
on, it's
exactly.
on the card.
Like that's my biggest holdup. Like this is your fault. Like if you don't want us playing this way, test your game better and make the change after. Like I think Bonds should be banned, but to do it this close to their pro tour, I think it's just like disgusting. I'm really disappointed with the team.
Yeah, this is the constant argument that happens, I guess, between professional players and
Yeah.
like the general public, and then also the dev team. Devs of every card game I've ever been a part of just love shaking things up before major events that people have put in months of practice into. Um, it's like their favorite thing to do. They think it's fun for coverage. It's like, I guess, flexing a different skill that makes them happy. It's not like something that I've ever supported because I'm always on the other side of it. I could see from a viewer aspect how that would be exciting. So I can't,
Mhm.
completely disregard that. Obviously, I'm pretty biased on the opinion there. But like, if this change was going to be made, like, just tell us it's going to be made like 2 weeks ago. Like, can we just find that out like in the middle of the national season, and then people can
Yeah,
have like
it's
a
like
send off to
you
play
see
the
it.
deck?
It's too good at US Nats. Just tell us early. Like I guess they couldn't decide soon enough. Like I don't know. Either way, I think the answer to me is like they should get better at their job in this regard. And like
Yeah.
don't punish the players who are putting in the time because you don't like that we're not playing your silly tiger cards that aren't that
Yeah.
good. I don't know.
It's just like who's it good for? Like it's not good for the small people without teams because the teams have 2 weeks to test and 17 times the manpower. It's
Mhm.
it's not. I guess it's good for the bigger teams, but like it's still frustrating because the teams are the people who are putting in all the work, months out, and it's just like
And then,
who.
oh my god, they didn't even lower the ceiling like they said they did. Like you left the red bonds, like the ceiling's the exact same. Like
Yeah,
sure, you can't like quadruple bonds, but like you can still 50 people, no problem. Like I just don't understand. I think this missed an arc in so many ways. Like if I read the article, I have like a disagreement on every single sentence. There's like two I agree with, which is like bonds is a messed up card. Yes, that bond should not exist. That's fine. Just not right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a bonus to anyone who is not playing new. I think that, or not new, but Zen. So
Zen.
like
Yeah, if you're
anyone
just
who,
not playing Zen, like you're just at an advantage over any Zen player. It's like I don't. Ugh, I'm
yeah,
disgusted.
it's just stuff that I think maybe, I think maybe for other players who's like nationals just ended, there's like a little bit of an argument that like they're just starting Pro Tour now. Um, though most of us
that's their
expected,
fault.
yeah, most of us expected that like it would
But
be
like
the
no,
same
Pro Tour
format.
started at Mist Valvoline. Like
Yeah, like it's the
Yeah,
all
same
that work is
format.
just for
It's the
nothing.
same. Like it's not like you like prep for Nats and then you stop and then you start Pro Tour prep. Like
yep.
it's the same format. There's two formats and they're both the same. I mean, I guess they're not now, but like in theory,
Yeah,
like
I think it validated a lot of work, the size of the change. I think the change is good. Like overall, the change is good. I think the timing is bad.
Mhm.
From an us player perspective. Like I'm fine with like after Pro Tour if they had done this because I even suggested this like several weeks ago. I said at some point we have to get rid of bonds because you can't print more cards for like the deck that are combo cards because bonds is just too strong. Like it just does too big of like too good of things. Um, and so like we talked about this before. I did not expect this change before 2 weeks before Pro Tour. And if they had just given us this information 2 weeks ago, like, hey, by the way, starting on the 8th, bonds will be semi-limited. And they said this 2 weeks ago, then it's like, okay, we have four weeks to do it. That's like a normal, that's the same time frame we had for Nats. This makes sense. Okay, fine. Like,
Yeah, absolutely no issue with that. It's like, oh, that sucks. I guess I'll spend the time that I actually have to look at other things or try and innovate this deck. Now it's like, ugh.
but I just had a thought. What if the reason that they never tested bonds? So there was a video that they posted with James White and Brian Gottlieb talking, and they were saying that Zen was Benji for a lot of development. What if that was like until really late, and they just like only tested cats because with Spring Tidings, like obviously that's like probably the
Well,
best thing
they
to
did
do.
say he was the
And then they
last to
just like
be worked on
and they
in
just
the
like gave it
article.
up. They said what? Sorry.
They said he was the last hero to be worked on in the article.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, I believe that. Like you look at it, and he kind of feels out of place compared to the other two. Like the other two feel like super like intentional with everything, and they do like really powerful things at really high costs, and they have like very like specific game plans for different matchups. And Zen is he's. It's actually funny. The Bonds line felt like the only interesting thing that Zen did, like from a
Yeah.
Mystic perspective, with like shifting wins and with transcending multiple times.
also
I don't
half
know.
of his cards are reprints. So like
Yeah,
just a
Yeah. Like parts of this banner are fine. Just all of it together, I think, is just like such a failure on their part. Like, if you missed bonds, I think that's a little tough. Like, surely you should have tested bonds better. But that's fine. But don't ban it 2 weeks before the event and just like sabotage all the work
in
that
the
the bonds players
and I
did.
can already
Like,
see like some of the comments are just like, adapt, get better. You knew there was going to be a
oh
thing.
yeah,
Like put the work in. The issue is travel for these type of events are booked way ahead of time. So,
yeah,
for example, like we've already booked the hotel, booked everything, and we with the intention that we were going to have be able to decide on what deck we were going to play at a reasonable rate that we think we're confident in making either our money back or more or doing well, etc. Going to these type of events, and those things were like decided after the set came out because it was supposed to be the same format. So you had essentially like 2 months to work on Pro Tour. But this massive of a change 2 weeks before the tournament essentially is like invalidates all of that testing. And I think there are definitely people, and there's things that I have heard of people who are like, if I had to rebook this event, I probably just don't go.
oh yeah. I
If
would
I
not be going if I
if I only
wasn't already
have
booked.
2 weeks to work on the format, then it's like
Mhm.
I'm not going to spend, you know, you're roughly spending like $1,200 on a flight, anywhere from $700 to $1,200 on a flight for most people. Plus, the hotels are pretty expensive. In that I've been looking at, so you're probably looking at like $500 to $700 on a hotel. So you're looking at like a $2,000 trip without food or anything else around that. Maybe a little cheaper if you got it here or there or whatever, but probably like a $2,000 trip that you have 2 weeks to prep for is like pretty rough, man. Like, it's just hard
Yeah.
because you're not competing against everyone else who's on the same level as you. Because if you've been working on Zen, then you have all your time into Zen, and you're practicing against people who have, like, they've been playing new for 3 months or 2 months or whatever, and then you're practicing against people who are playing Azalea for, like, 2 years, and then you're playing against people who are playing Victor for, like, like, almost a year or whatever, however long it's been, 6 months, 8 months that he's been out, like, that's the difference now. You went from your new hero to another hero. You're like, I have 2 weeks to learn something else to play, figure out what's good, and I'm now competing against people who have infinitely more time than I'm able to put in, and not because of any choices that I've made. Is because the devs decided to make a major ban 2 weeks before, but they could have at least given me an extra couple of weeks announcement on this was going to happen. That's where the frustration is coming from. Just to
I
point out.
appreciate you understanding my pain, Cody. Like it literally just feels like LSS told me to just go off myself and like just be at a severe disadvantage at this event. Like it's ridiculous. And like obviously this doesn't apply to everyone. And like some ninja players or Zen players weren't playing all the bonds, but it was like literally all the work I did, like probably like 300 hours of work. They're just like told me to throw out before I could do anything with it. Like I feel so bad.
Yep,
I
it's
think
tough.
the other thing we missed about, I think that's being a terrible or like unjustified ban. They like call out in the article that in their testing environment, like new was a natural counter to Zen. I'm pretty sure that's like what we're seeing in the actual environment, and that's very much what we saw internally. Like, just let the Pro Tour players adjust to the known format. Like, I think we were going to see that for sure. Like, our internal news were like dumpstering Zen, myself included.
Yep.
I was losing at everything. That's why I had to adapt. Like, I was playing this like janky ass deck if you look at it.
I mean, I think our internal news, it was like a cycle. Like, news would beat a
Yeah.
version of the deck, and then the deck would evolve to like be more resilient to that, and then they like it gains some percentage. It doesn't just all of a sudden start crushing new every time, but it gains a percentage, and then
Mhm.
news like, well, if that's going to happen, let me add this or this card in there, and then like it just kept like
Yeah.
evolving on top of
Yeah.
each other internally.
Do you think they made this decision to ban this before or after New outperformed Zen the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. I just
Because
don't understand. Like,
it won more nationals than Zen last week, and then this previous week it won the same amount as Zen with less representation.
I think they
So
clearly
like
just hate ninjas and whatever deck I like because they've done this every time. Like they just delete my favorite deck and make the other best decks better. Like I just don't understand what we're doing. Why is disruption the only like viable class
So
we can
for
have?
people who don't know, he's talking about belittle and buy.
Yeah, that was I
he's not talking
think
about stubbies. He's talking about
it
belittle.
was honestly the same level of impact for the way I was playing Zen. For the class overall, it's not as bad, obviously. Like Belittle actually just like deleted 5 from the meta. And they even called out in the article that they didn't want to do that to this archetype, and I think they like 1000% deleted this archetype, which was like a more mid-rangey Zen.
Uh, yeah. So I think it's tough. But on the other side, like Zen, I think could have used a hit, just not as severely. Um, and it really depends on like what side of the fence you're on. Like obviously, if you've been prepping a different deck than
Yeah.
this the whole time, you're like ecstatic at this point. Like you're pretty happy. You're the only part you might be a little upset about is now you have to go find other variants of the Zen deck and make sure you still beat that variant of the deck
That
now.
that's been the biggest pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
like every deck is like everybody's like Zen's still probably pretty good. What the fuck are you testing against? Like there's nothing like out there that's easy to like access. Which is part of like the interesting thing, right? Is like you have to figure that out, but like
But you're betting
Not
2
this
weeks
late.
on figuring out that the deck is
Yeah,
still
it's
good
so
enough to be
ridiculous.
played when you could
it's
just
like
like
it's
go
like
to a different deck now.
yeah, it's like you have to figure out Zen regardless of whether or not you're playing it, just because you have to know if your matchup is actually playable.
Yeah, it's just tough.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is like the first time I've had
go ahead.
this is the first time I've had this like trust issue come up for this game where like this is why I don't play Magic anymore. Like I bought into Modern. The next week they banned my deck. I was like, okay, I'll play this other deck. The next week they banned that deck. So like I'm just not playing this game, obviously. And this is the
Mhm.
first time, like, I don't know. I've never put in this much work. Like I really pushed myself the past like few weeks. Like literally all my time has been spent playing this game. Like sacking like some like self-care. I figured I'll do that later once I figure everything out. And then I figured everything out and I was like, this is great. I have 2 weeks to just like get reps and
It
take
is
care of
like
myself.
it's like watching a play, and like I'm really hoping that we're in Act Two right now, and not Act Three. Like I'm hoping it's a comedy and not a tragedy. Like
Yeah, no,
if
it's
it's a
just a
tragedy
tragedy,
and like
man.
this is Act Three and Dan just shits the bed, I'm gonna be really sad.
Yeah, to be fair,
No.
I don't know, there's at least probably somewhere between like 20 hours of just like actual like video plus essay work on the Zen deck just from Dan individually.
Oh, and that's from the last week.
That's
Like
what I mean.
that's
Yeah,
from
but
this the last weekend.
that's like
Like
stuff we could actually we won't because it's like too internal stuff. But we if we release it, it's like
I
literally
might
like
post
20
in
hours of videos
the
of
subs.
stuff
Yeah.
that we like internally were working on for the deck. That's just gone now.
Yeah,
Right?
you could teach a you could like study and teach like a 6 week course on Dan's like you use it as like a history course, and like
Yeah.
the different time periods are like this is when we played this card and this is when we played this card.
Yeah. I literally
You
just
have
like
like
kept
the
pushing. I did all the
dude,
work
you,
my style of Zen, and then now that's just like
you have
deleted it.
like
Like
you have like my
what
like
am I
when I
supposed to
first brought
do?
the deck up, you have like the pre Art of War era, and then like
Yeah.
everything else is the post Art of War era.
I just think if you look at it like
I wish they had
if
Art man. I think we like win the Pro Tour if they do. I would be so pumped to not have to play that card.
That card
My
sucks.
style of
if they
Zen, and then
knew that
Nelsa's
this was
just
going
like
to happen 2 weeks ago, it'd just been nice if they just told us 2 weeks ago. Like
Yeah,
temporarily do anything but this, but deleting the archetype,
yeah.
or
Well,
just
it's
tell
like
us sooner. Like I don't understand. You've done it before.
we almost like found this deck by accident, and just like I literally I saw like the We Make Best video, and then I made like a
Mhm.
really bad version of that deck that was just like so much worse, and then I played 2 games with it, and I'm like, this is broken. And then I
Exactly. Yeah.
showed
It
the
took like
team,
one
and
game
then it
of
was
playing
within
nine
two
bonds in the
days.
deck to be like, this is the best thing.
Within 2 days, the whole team was on 9 Bond Zen, and like we all knew it was the best deck. And then
Yeah.
people faltered off, but like it it took 2 days of not really good testing to figure out that this archetype was broken. Like
Yeah. No, like I talked through it pretty quick, but like it's really not deep. It's nine bonds. It's nine transcend cards because obviously it's the clearly broken blue cards. That's 27 cards.
plus all
Just
the
add the
descendants.
combo cards. Like the deck's done. I don't know. I'm very let down by the dev team and whoever was involved in that decision.
yeah, I think that's where a lot of the frustration's coming from. Is just because it is, it's a big tournament. We only get 2 of them a year. This is the second one. We have 2 weeks
Yeah.
now. It's an expensive trip that you're taking time off work for, and you've been putting a lot of time into practicing and being ready for it so that you're ready on the day. And this goes for anyone who's been really grinding and practicing. And while absolutely make any changes to the game that you would like to make because it is your game,
Mhm.
please just give us more time. Just give us like 4
Yeah.
weeks. Just like 4
Like,
weeks.
I'm honestly like, I'm like ready to retire sooner and like take the game less seriously. Like I can't go through this again. Like this was such a waste. Um, and like the metagame already adjusted, which is the worst part, I think. Like the entire metagame right now is just like max disruption and like new. And you just made Zen worse, which is already like barely hanging on in my opinion. Like he's so weak to disruption now, which I know they wanted. I don't know. I hate all of it.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit um, from our rant, and we can rant later if we'd like. But let's talk a little bit about
Yeah, we
results
can talk
from
like
last week.
post. Uh,
Yeah. So last week, we had the last amount of our nationals go through, and we had 5 Zen wins. I believe that was the answer, right? And then 5
Yeah.
new wins as well. 1, 3, 4 new wins. It looks like. So 4.
It should have been 5. I
Okay.
think.
I think it's 5 and 5 as well. That's what I heard
Yeah.
it. It looks like Azalea finally picked up their second win of everything. That is like the most disappointing deck I think of the entire season is Azalea. Being the third most played deck with 2 wins is pretty pathetic, to be honest. Just as a whole. Also, its tops are terrible. It only had 29 top 8s as the third most played deck, and like not third by like a mile, like third by like 3 people from its top. So pretty pathetic showing overall for Azalea. And its conversion wasn't great as well. Basically, everything was trash except for Zen and Nu. For the for the most part, both of those decks were highly played. Their conversion rates were great. I will say, and both of their conversion rates from top 8 to winning it was fantastic as well. They won almost all of the events. The only other hero that won any real number of events, I guess, is Victor at 4 that we saw as well. Any comments or thoughts on the last week that we saw from nationals?
I actually think the last week is pretty interesting because you have to look kind of past Zen now a little bit. I think most people agree Zen's still going to be like a pretty large portion of the meta and is still going to be like a pretty good deck post these bans. But outside of just Zen and Nu, which Nu was primarily as good as she was because of how strong Zen was. Not saying she's still very good, but I think she probably loses a little bit of points as well. But then you look at this next tier of heroes with KO, Azalea, Enigma, Prism, and then Dash IE and Victor. All is like potential decks to like step up in the next meta. I think you see decks like Dash IE and Victor that are maybe up there as well because of the prominence of Zen. But things like KO and Prism, I could see kind of emerging now, like being, getting Azalea as well, getting like a little bit more points into Zen where that was a tricky matchup before. It was like very close. You get maybe a slight edge now, which makes them better, in addition to just being more parts of the meta now. So I think that like tier of heroes is going to be like the biggest shakeup outside of just obviously Zen is not going to be as popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do from this back. And this is like I was gonna play Zen too. So it's all not like I didn't have a deck I was gonna play. The first thing I did, I was like, ooh, can I play Enigma now? Because like give me any excuse to play Enigma, and I am going to be playing Enigma.
I feel
And
like a
then
lot of people did,
I
which I thought
tested,
was wild. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
And
you
then
go ahead,
I
sorry.
just I tried to play Enigma. It's still terrible. I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
Enigma is still like virtually unplayable, and it doesn't matter the version of the Zen deck. It just beats you. Like it's just
Yeah.
like every. It might be worse now than it was before. Personally, um,
I think so.
it's like it's just so bad. And I was like, well, I still can't play Enigma, so still sad days over here.
Yeah.
I lost my deck and then couldn't play my backup deck. So who knows what I'm playing?
Yeah,
I
I
might not
think
know.
this.
I might not know until next week what I'm playing at Pro Tour.
Yeah, I think the optimal play for this pro tour for everybody that like doesn't know what they're doing is you take the like 5 or 6 best decks, whatever you think those are. You like eliminate all the decks you don't think you can learn in time, and then you throw a dart at a wall, and you just guess because like that's like the best mental thing is you're like, well, if I don't have a choice, I it wasn't my fault because every deck is just like terrible because we have 2 weeks and we don't know the meta. So you probably just pick the best linear deck that you know how to play and hope. I don't know. Everything's just linear aggro decks for the most part that aren't really interesting in any way. And there's no like meta to attack, so the disruptive decks are still just like they're like just gem lottoing harder than they ever have. Like I don't know.
I don't know if I was a new player, I think I'd also be kind of upset about this
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
because
would.
like new players have
Mm,
been crafting strats into the Zen deck for a while now, and they've gotten progressively better at it. Things like oh, I'm going to set a Siren's Call. I'm going to wait until they break their helmet, and then I'll Siren's Call their chi right out of their hand, like on their helmet break turn. I'm going to let this sit here the whole game. And I'm going to play around that as like a strategy. And they've been getting more in depth and more in depth into like their actual strategies playing into Zen, and like all of that work is like invalidated now because you have to play differently. And while your matchup against Zen is probably better than it was previously, and you might be happy about that, the meta is gonna like way more open. And as a control deck, you don't want that. You want the highly defined meta that you can play into in tech for. And so now they have to worry that like people are gonna think they can play Enigma still and bring Enigma, and they're like they don't want to
yeah.
play that matchup, right? And
Prism
like,
gets better.
and then people are just like, maybe I'll play Bolton now. Maybe I'll play this now. Maybe I'll play this other deck now. And it's like
Yeah,
that's
Bolton also
too
gets new cards this week.
that's too many things for new to deal with. And like, so these
Mm,
new players who've been putting in all this time, while they're not in the same position as like the Zen players who lost everything, they also cannot be super happy because they must have felt like they had some part of the meta figured out. And they're like, I have plans for everything. I have counters, really detailed ways to play as a control deck. And now everything's blown open and changed. And like, That's the worst spot for new to be in, is like a wide open meta.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's a little bit of both. Like, I think people will still play Zen and still think
Mhm.
that their new matchup is way better than it actually is, which is great for the news.
Mhm.
But I agree with
yeah,
you.
yeah. This change is just like so. It's just awkward. Like
I'm
you look at other games like Magic, where they do have like 2 weeks of real prep time to like figure out the format, but like they know, and like I don't know. So many people's work is just like not. I don't know.
Dude, even if
Whatever.
all they said was, "Hey, there's gonna be some changes.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
It'll be a new format." Like, just something to like, "Hey, there's gonna be some big changes." And you go, "Okay, I'm not going
yeah.
to put too much stock in my prep for these 2 weeks. I'm gonna relax a little bit and
Yeah, like you have to
maybe play another
sacrifice
deck,"
things to be
right?
able to prepare for a tournament. Like you have to give some things up, like in your life, if that's uh, like physical stuff, emotional stuff, like just time, just like being comfortable. Like it's hard to test for these events, and just to kind of have that like not completely invalidated, but like in some people's case, like Dan's case, like yes, just
Yeah, it's
completely
like 100%. Like, I hate the way that Zen has to be played now.
yeah.
Like, they actually just deleted my deck and all the work I did.
Yeah. I think
I
at
guess
like the
I'll play better against Zens. Like, it's not non-zero value, but it's
I think at the highest level, like
bad.
when you're hard prepping, you do push a lot of things off to the side, life wise, because this is your passion, this is your hobby, this is whatever it is for you. And that's normal. Like, but you're not doing it 24/7 all year. But it's like, hey, this is crunch time for Pro Tour. And like people know that. Like people in my life that I deal with, they know, hey, I'm in crunch time. More of my time is dedicated to the game than there will be like the week after Pro Tour. Like the month after Pro Tour, what am I'm just like just having fun at that point. Like I get all my time back, right? I start another run of Baldur's Gate 3, right? So like that's I get to do that when I come back. But like you just push everything off prepping. And so it does hurt when you made all these sacrifices because you're trying to achieve a goal, and the mechanics get changed like right before, invalidating a lot of that. If we had just been told ahead of time, then we could have done
Mhm.
the opposite. We could have taken 2 weeks to relax, practice some other stuff, like other things than Zen or what that we thought were gonna get hit. And then they come out with the ban, and then it's like, okay, now we crunch for these 2 weeks versus crunching for the 2 weeks beforehand, right?
And that's like the other side of that coin is like some people might say like, well, then just don't put there's a BNR, like you know that there could be
Mhm.
a change, so just don't put as much time into the preparation. But then it's like on the other end, you have to like there's like a level of integrity you have to like hold yourself to, of like, if I have 2 months to prepare for the Pro Tour, I have to take these months. If I don't know something's going to get hit, I have to take as much time as I possibly can to be preparing to the Pro Tour for the Pro Tour, because like you said, it's like a $2,000 trip for some people. Like that's a huge deal, and like you have to be testing if you are at the highest level. Like you have to put in as much work as you can. And so it's like there's not a good way to do it. Like if you don't tell people whether or not something's going to get hit, and then you are willing to hit things, then like people are always getting screwed no matter what you do. um
And we've had too
like
many
they,
BNRs that were nothing. That's the issue. Is like we've
yeah,
had BNRs in time frames like that were just like nothing. We'll deal with this after the next major. Like they've done
or
that
a
before.
I
small
just
change. Yeah. Or a small change like Bullseye Bracers or
Yeah.
Autumn's Touch or
I
something
just
like that,
never
where
would
it's
have
like,
thought they didn't test Bonds of Ancestry in the new Ninja. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, why would that be on the chopping block?
yeah,
But yeah, to Lucas's point, like, I fly out on Friday next week. So, like, 9 days from now. So, like, I just had to be done testing by this weekend. There's no other choice for me to be prepared for this event. And
Yep.
I just,
Yeah, that's not to take into account the
I
people
chose
who are
wrong.
going for Pro Tour and they're gonna like go early to have like an actual
Mhm.
vacation in the place. Like see the world that
See
you're
the world,
traveling to,
oh,
right?
so
Like
bad.
the
I
thing
can't
that
see the
said,
world now. Like, I have to play online while I'm in Ireland. Like, this is ridiculous.
yeah. So I just I have I'm not complaining about the ban. I'm complaining about the timing. I just wish the
Right.
timing was different. Like you can ban this 100%, no problem. Not going to
everything
complain.
about how it was handled.
Do it 2
Yeah.
weeks
Yeah.
ago. Like
I think
literally just
complete
do it 2
failure.
weeks ago. Or just tell us, "Hey, we can't announce it yet,
Or do
but
it
there will be
after.
some
Or
big
do it after the
changes."
event.
Or do it after the event. Yeah.
It's all fine. Like, the meta's already adjusted.
Just tough. That's
Tough.
and for
Tough. I don't
a
know
lot
how
of
we got
people,
back there.
for a lot of people this has no bearing on you.
Yeah,
This might just sound like pretty whiny from a privileged position,
it
but
probably does.
this and it might as well, be. It's just that this is what we do. This is our passion. This is what we put a lot of our
Yeah.
time into.
It's
Uh,
entirely self-inflicted, but it's like it's what we do. Like there's no other choice other than to like be as prepared as I can.
yep. And so it just hurts when a bunch of things are invalidated that it just didn't have to be handled that way. It could have just been handled better. Okay. From there, unless you have any more comments, Dan, you can have a ranting episode.
Yeah,
You're
I
allowed
guess
to.
I will just. No, I'm good at ranting. I just want to like say that I do love Flesh and Blood, and it's like by far the best card game ever made. But like, test your game better, man. Come on.
Or just communicate a little better, not 2 weeks out from the event.
It's literally both. Like, so frustrating.
It was a calling, or if it was like nationals, if they made this ban 2 weeks before nationals, that's different as well. This is an international like major trip. It's just like a lot of
Yeah,
people's
and
time,
it's like
commitment,
the
and
bread and
money.
butter of their game, right? Like it's made
Yeah.
to be the premier competitive game. Like, why are you dumping on your competitive players?
Yeah. Tough.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're gonna answer some Discord questions. These are questions asked by members of our premium Discord. If you would like to be able to ask questions on all the podcasts, look at videos that we put out, see some, maybe rants from time to time, or find people who are actually good at the game to practice with, which there are a bunch of in this Discord, by the way. Um, Not to mention like the people on the team, but also just calling winners and national top eights, just all throughout the people who are in here. So if any of that interests you, click the link down below for the Discord. Now, first question here. Oh, also, if you want to see plant pictures, there is a plant picture of the updated plant in the Discord for the people
Oh.
who are wondering, because the members were asking for that, and it has been fulfilled. Okay, first question here from Cusco says, getting ahead of it now, where's everyone's opinion on making Bonds Fab's first unofficial Majestic card?
Mm. We
So,
didn't touch on
not
that
the
yet.
ban itself, but the type of ban that they did.
I mean, it means nothing to me. Like they put in the article, like they may never do this again. They may do something even crazier. Like they always just do what they want. And I'm not saying that in like I feel like I'm being a little spiteful, which I am, but they've shown time and time again with like how they do their draft formats and everything. They're willing to like get creative with how they
Mhm.
handle these things. Like I don't put any
Yeah.
stake into it. If they want something in the game or out of the game, they'll do it, which I think is good overall.
Yeah. If they think it's the best change, they should make what they think is the best change, whatever that looks like. They're wrong here, but like,
They're literally not wrong. It's just the way they did it.
sure, yes.
Agreed. I want to reiterate that point. We don't think this ban is wrong. We just don't like the timing of it.
I mean, it's wrongful to do it because, like, that's my big thing. Like, this is your fault. Like, you didn't test properly. Like, if you didn't want this in the game, like, find that out before.
Yeah. We just don't like the timing, or give us more time to make the,
Anything but this. Literally anything but this.
but 2 weeks before a major international trip. Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as banning just some colors, great. Ban however you want. None of that will ever bother us. However you do it, like, just make the game good. Renzo asks, without spoiling too much for your pro tour, with the new bans, how do you guys think the meta will change? I don't know if it will.
Who knows? You can't know. It's just more undefined. That's it.
Yeah. But honestly, I don't know if it will. There's not enough time. It's like 2 weeks. Like people who are like locked in playing Zen will probably in most cases just adjust and play Zen. Because not everyone has infinite time to try and go into it. I mean, even Dan, who's on here, does not have infinite time. So who knows what's going
If
to
I
happen
could
there.
emotionally play Zen, I would. I don't think I would be able to play Zen at Pro Tour at this point.
Yeah.
And play well.
So I don't actually think the meta will change that much. There's just not enough time for the change. So most people who've put in a month and a half of prep into whatever deck they're playing, they'll try just adjust it for kind of what they think is going to happen, and then just play that deck. There's not really.
I think what should happen.
Mhm.
I don't know. What I initially thought should happen is that disruption should leave the format a little bit, like a little bit less. Like it's so heavy disruption right now because I don't think you need it as much for Zen because he's, I think, a lot weaker to it now. But from what I'm hearing, people think Zen is still the best deck, and you should probably pack your disruption if that's the case.
Yeah, it's like eventually the meta should readjust into like a better format, but it won't right away. So it's just this weird spot for it to sit in. I don't think you're going to see a lot of great innovation in the 2 weeks that people had to make it, because
Well, there's no innovation for the most part to be had because like everybody, like the set has been out for a while. Like there's nothing new about the format.
Bolton?
It's just there's nothing new about the format. It's just like,
Rough.
Zen is different.
Yeah, it's tough. There's probably some levels of innovation to be found, right?
Yeah,
It's just like
yeah. There's some,
when you only have 2 weeks in an undefined meta in which you don't know how people are going to adjust to the ban, it's nearly impossible to find that innovation because there's nothing for you to innovate against because it's unknown, and also it's a waste of time if it doesn't work. And you have such limited
Mhm.
time now that and you have 2 formats you're still trying to learn because we've had draft for a while, but like it's still incredibly deep. Like you can still always get better at draft, right? So like you still have those 2 formats, and now like one format's going to take up a majority of your time, and there's no guarantee of payoff, and you have 2 weeks for an international trip. So
Yeah, I think a lot of the legitimacy of the prep is just like gone now. Like you're just gonna bring whatever you're bringing and
yeah,
hope. Like, I don't know, it's annoying.
yep. You'll see. I mean, maybe you'll see more mistakes or more, not as crisp play or something like that, or not as good sideboarding stuff. Like it's just a little more unknown, right? Which I personally like to see when, like, for example, when the new players have like a really like tuned in way that they want to play a matchup, and like you watch that unfold, and you're just like, oh, the macro
Oh,
is
it's
so
so
nice. Like
frustrating.
it's frustrating to play against, but it's beautiful to see,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. No, both sides, I agree.
yeah, and like the same with like the Zen. If like you're really in depth and you know how the Zen is supposed to play this matchup, and then you see them playing that matchup, you see the whole macro side of it, and
Yeah.
like that stuff is just great to
Mhm.
see. The dog
Yeah, I
has
agree.
sensed that you are upset and has come to comfort you.
yeah.
He's resisting.
Yeah. Okay, last question here is from Mike at Blackout Party. Now that color-specific bannings are a thing, what are your thoughts on unbanning specific colors of Ball Lightning, Belittle, Drone, Plunder Run?
It depends on the version. I think there's a couple interesting possibilities here. I think they could overhaul the belittle ban, and they could unban belittle and then ban one of the colors of minnowism. Although I don't know if that actually does anything practical because you just play yellows in a lot of the different strats. And that's probably not something they'll do. Plunder Run is broken. Don't unban any of that card. Ball Lightning, I could actually I could see them unbanning Ball Lightning, but that's just because I don't think that card is. I don't know that card. I think just we'll need to see what Rosetta brings, but obviously we don't have any Lightning heroes right now, so it's kind of hard to evaluate that card. But I don't
It's
think
just
any
a
of the
Rose Nightmare, right? That's the big issue.
yeah the
I
the
think
big
too.
thing as well is a lot of the banned cards right now are just not good. They're good because they're above rate plays. So it's not like Bonds where it was good because it was a fundamental the card's a 2-for-1. The blue is still a 2-for-1, and it's like an engine. Like the more Bonds and Descendants you play, the better they become off each other. But red Ball Lightning is just 2 points better than blue Ball Lightning. That's the only it's not unbanning blue Ball Lightning or yellow Plunder Run. It's just not an interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, no one obviously cares about it. I do think I'd be curious to see if some of these cards are still as good as to be worth a ban, but it's just like there's no real value in unbanning any of these cards. Like no one gets
I think Ball Lightning might be the exception.
no, I think Ball
Um,
Lightning is just too powerful as an inherent ability. The inherent ability on Ball Lightning is too powerful um, to exist without us knowing what the next set looks like. Especially if it has a
yeah,
bunch
I
of
agree.
plus ones and stuff, like with
Mhm.
wizards and things, like being able to like put
Yeah,
amp and stuff.
I think
That's just too much, I think.
yeah, I think if Ball Lightning was not very good in the next set, if Ball Lightning doesn't get support in the next set, maybe it's fine, but it probably will because that's just how Lightning cards work and how Runeblade and Wizard
Yeah.
works. That it's probably just not.
Yep, and you can't unban Plunder Run if you're making more Rune Blades who have access to
You
the
just can't.
boots.
You just can't unban Plunder Run. That card is just ridiculous.
Most of these cards are just like they just push aggro decks to like a level that makes them good, and then without them, the aggro decks are bad. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and also
What
like
was the
Aggro just can't be good is the LSS stance,
yeah,
it seems, right?
yeah? What was the other card? It was Ball Lightning, Plunder
drone
Run, and
drone is just banned because it inherently isn't what they want the game to be. That's it. It,
yeah,
it
they
has
they all
nothing to
do
do
the
with the
same
power
thing.
level of the card.
Yeah, they all do the same thing as well. All the color drones are the same.
Yep.
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 If you could limit it to one copy of one color of Drone of Brutality, and that would be a unique unbanning to change how the card fundamentally works. But
I mean,
anything
you could
else
do the
just
same
doesn't.
thing. You could do like one yellow Plunder Run, and you're like, That would have like nearly no
Okay.
impact, right? Like you would just
It's just be annoying. Like
it'd
every
just be
deck you
annoying,
build, you're like,
right?
should I
Like
play the one plunder run?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. None of these cards really are anything I think would be exciting. I know the chess piece for Runeblade, Scaletta often wants to be
Mm,
unbanned. See that would be like an interesting
Yeah.
unban. You can't unban it. I'm not saying you can ban it.
Yeah.
It's way too powerful. But like that's a card that like nothing replaces. It's just like it's a very unique card that like is it a whole archetype. Is very similar to bonds, right? It's a whole archetype for a class.
yep.
And so like that's stuff that people want unbanned, but you just can't because it's too powerful. Um, but all these, most of the other cards are just kind of boring.
Yeah.
But we can't make a good aggro decks for this game. It's either super powerful or underpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Or it's
that's
K
kind of
who
the
just gets
nature.
like buffed and then ignored.
That's kind of the nature of aggro, though, right?
Mhm.
Just like when it's really powerful,
Yeah.
it's really hard to adjust to, and like then once it's not powerful enough to be like broken and people adjust to it, it just looks really bad.
Well, I
Like
think
Zen is like super powerful because it's really hard to adjust to, and like you have to be like have high level strategies to adjust to it. Whereas something like Fi is just like bad. Like the balance is kind of weird because like there's not really like a way you can build aggro where it's not weak to disruption. So it's just like however strong it is, disruption is going to be like that much power, like more powerful,
I think
right? Like if yeah, go ahead.
I think the problem with aggro in this game is that you draw 4 cards every round. And so the way aggro typically works is in other games, it's trying to go very fast as possible, and then eventually
Yeah, you
it'll
get
run out.
worse.
It'll run out of resources, and then it'll lose the game. And then sometimes it has a couple finishers in the deck where it's like, I have no cards left, but this deals the last like 3 points. And then like if you hit that,
Or
then
like
maybe you
draws
can
3 cards.
then maybe you can get over that point. But we don't have that in this game. We just have like you get to attack every round. So like the aggro deck isn't like trying to go faster than your opponent in a lot of circumstances. It's trying to do bigger numbers more often on rounds or a massive round in the case of
It's
Zen.
just trying to make them block, right? And just never
Yeah.
stop blocking.
And then
Yeah, the
and
best
never stop
way.
blocking. So to adjust numbers up and down, it just doesn't work. Like if you're just like if the number is below rate for your hand, then like the aggro deck doesn't do anything in this game. It just does nothing.
Yeah.
And then if it
Yeah,
does like way over the numbers, and it's just the best deck in the game because like its numbers are
yeah,
too good. The only way to
yeah,
make an aggro deck, I think, function is in a combo like situation where its medium rounds kind of suck, and then it has like one big round that you're trying to build to. It's like probably the most comfortable way to build an aggro deck in this type of game. But for the most part, this
I
game
think.
just can't have real aggro decks for extended periods of time because they'll just be the best decks.
Well, that's equipment is kind of the solution to that
Yeah.
we've seen them like kind of move towards is things like Traverse and Stride of Reprisal. We saw Stubby Hammers way back where like if you print aggro, the Scalata even to a degree, where you print aggro decks that get worse as the game goes on, like truly actually factually worse, right? Like if aggro is the best deck because it has the best equipment by far, for example, right? Let's say there's some mythical aggro deck that gets like 20 points of value out of its equipment, but the deck does 12 points of damage a turn, right? For example, that's like truly compared to other games with aggro, you are trying to make the game go as fast as possible and end it really quickly so that
You're
you
just
can,
grabbing 5
in
right
this
now.
game, outvalue them. But then it's just like, if you make the equipment broken and the cards bad, then it's just like, it's just so hard to balance, right? Because then it's just like, it always gets outlasted or it is just better than everything else because it blows them out of the water by turn 2, right? Like you see these like fatigue decks trying to beat Zen, and it's like, yeah, he gets worse once his equipment's gone, but you literally just fucking die like as soon as he pops his equipment. Like he just kills you.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking
And then
about
if you hit
Balance
him,
and Stonewall Gauntlet, which like actually do a good job of this, of like countering
I
that.
think Balance and Stonewall are
I thought
very,
you were
very
going for that
strong in
point.
the matchup. Yeah.
Literally, both of them
no,
together is like so hard for Zen
It's
to
so
overcome.
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I was trying to slam it in everything. I was like, my Enigma deck to like make it work. Like I was trying to put it because
Literally,
that combo is
just
so
play those
strong.
two and play Weakest Link, and your Zen matchup just like doubled percentage.
Yeah.
If you can like comfortably support them.
Funny enough, the gloves are like terrible now, like absolutely god awful. Have you?
Yeah.
I don't know
Uh,
if people out there
I
been
mean,
trying to play it into the new Zen, and they're just going like tigers for days, like and stuff like that.
they
But a lot of that stuff
they
is like
can get it.
turn, and it's not like link, so a lot of it doesn't matter. And like there's no good point to block with it. With the previous gloves, you knew when to block. It was like they put Gust Wave down, or
The-
at late they put Bonds down. You put it in, you get your money out. But like that doesn't happen with the new Zen.
They're still pretty good. They block the chase the tail line really well. You kind of have to like see it coming, and if they have like an extra tiger, you can get boned. But if they have like a double anthem turn, they like tiger for 2, and then their line is chase aspect tiger after that, all having to be on the same chain. Then you can get like 5.
There's a couple of
5 value out of
a
it,
couple of
which is
ways to
pretty
get
good.
it, but one, they're really hard to see, and two, there's a ton of counterplay to it now. Like it just quite often it gets like 3 or 4 points of value. Like quite often now.
Yeah, like a red Harmony of the Hunt just like blows you out
Yep.
when you block with it on the first tiger. There's like, okay, close chain, make another tiger, go. And if it's like all face up, then whatever.
Yep. I just thought that was funny from testing that we've had. Okay. I think we have ranted quite a lot today, but I will give Dan his last anything he would like in this episode. I'm very curious to see what the comments for this episode looks like, because
No
I don't
filter.
think we've ever done an episode like this before. So we will see what happens. Dan, anything else?
I got nothing, man. No, I'm just dead inside.
Okay, let's get out of here because Dan's mental health is going to crap, and we should probably reassure him that everything's okay. So goodbye, everyone. See ya.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope here,
7
but
What we
envelope
could do
in
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of envelope and darkness.